Okay, now this is a continuation on the explanation on development strategies. Remember, you need to study all the development strategies for this partial exam. This is the last strategy that we didn't get to explain on the classroom. Now, sustainable development. Now, sustainable development is a strategy, but it's really not a strategy in itself. It really combines with all other strategies. What is sustainable development? The definition that we're going to use is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Now, sustainable development works with development theories, development theories that we saw last partial. Basically, by considering development not just economic development, but basically all benefits of the potential of human life. Okay, so basically, if you take development 60 years ago, most of the views towards the environment were from an utilitarian perspective. Basically, you could use anything you could from the environment just to make it profitable to you. Okay, so now, but in the past decades, maybe from the 70s on, we have some environmental challenges that question this perspective. Okay, so if you destroy the forest in order to grow agriculture and mining and selling timber, now this will generate economic development because this will generate jobs and it will give more money to the people that are living on the borderlines of the forest, yet it's not sustainable on the long term. Okay, so now would you call that development? Maybe 60 years you would, but not today exactly. Okay, because if you consider the livelihoods of the people, then their lives are not better by this kind of irresponsible development. In order for it to be development today, it has to have some element of sustainability on the long term. Okay, so basically the premise on the theory is that development and environment are united. You can't do one if you are damaging the other. So maybe what you have to avoid is you have to protect not just the companies, not just the economy, but if you want to develop according to development theory, people, not just economy, then you have to, because when you're talking about development, you're talking about child survival, life expectancy, education, equity, equal opportunity, wealth, productive services, consumption, institutions, social capital, states, and regions. Remember, this is what we consider development according to development theory. So in order to get to this, you cannot neglect the environment. Okay, you have to consider nature, life support systems, nature, earth, biodiversity, ecosystem services, resources, environment, and the community as well. Okay, so sustainable development tries to make development work on a long-term basis. By Brazil did this. Again, many forest areas of Brazil have been turned into economic development. Okay, and wealth is being created by that. But the problem is, the question is, for how long? Is this wealth sustainable? Okay, or have you just made money from something that you will not be able to use it on the future sense, and you will end up with less than you are now. Okay, so in order to incorporate sustainable development, you have to ensure that you're gonna improve these areas, but on a long-term basis. And in order to do a long-term basis, it has to be sustainable. It has to be responsible towards the environment. Now, okay, you need the environment. Okay, why we care so much about sustainable development today is because we're now looking at it as and this is rather new, not so much from a utilitarian perspective that we can plunge the environment in order to get our benefits, but into that looking at the environment as capital, okay, as some kind of wealth. Okay, the environment you need the environment because it gives you, it's a kind of capital that you use. And if you waste it, then you don't have that capital. Capital in what? For example, I'm going back to the presentation. You need the environment. If you sacrifice it for development, you will make your development short term. Now, you need the environment besides, for example, because of irreplaceable environmental services upon which humanity is critically dependent. For example, food crops don't pollinize themselves. In order to reproduce and give fruit, flowers have to be pollinized. Insects help you with that. Bees, all kinds of butterflies that pollinize flowers of an apple tree so that the apple tree can grow apples. If you don't have insects that are pollinizing your field, then your crops don't give fruit because you need those nature services. Now these are irreplaceable. There's no way we can do it without input. So we have to look at it as, because right now we see visas are something that the environment provides for free. But it's still wealth that you have to take care of. Even if it's not costing you today, you have to consider that it has a cost if you remove this element from the equation. Okay? Now, keeping the soil fertile, absorbing pollution, these are activities that the environment does for us, and we need it, okay, from a utilitarian basis. Now, development of medicines. Most medicines come from some vegetables or mineral or animal ingredients found in nature. Like 80% of our medicines come from there. So you need to keep forests so that you can do more research on plants. Genetic resources for food and agriculture, ethical and spiritual reasons, maintain cultures and cultural customs. All these are services that nature provides. So you have to look at this as capital. Okay, so you have to take care of this capital or else you will lose it. Okay, and this is something that you need to. You're using it. Even just for recreational purposes. Okay, governments spend money on recreational parks and places where people can socialize and be happy. So nature gives you landscapes. Gives you, so you have to take on account those things that are providing a service for the community. Okay, so in order to basically put into an equilibrium just economic development towards development of the whole population. Are the whole population benefiting of the environmental services? Who's going to get benefits from economic development? Everybody in the same amount? Okay, so you have to consider that on account. And the idea, you could do more with your resources over time if you consider the environment. So basically, now, in practice, it's going to include different things. You have to, for example, efforts on sustainable development can come from different sources. First of all, it's a social movement. Okay, so many of the efforts or programs that are going to work towards sustainable development are in changing people's perspectives. So now this can work both in rich countries or in poor countries by just changing the way people think about their daily activities, changing consumption patterns, or encouraging local companies to be more responsible towards the environment is an example. Building programs towards that is an example. Building greener institutions locally. Okay, how can this work with good governance? Okay, using the environment as economic bonds, for example. And last, but probably most important, science and technology. For using science for the benefit of development and environment. This is very important. There's an optional homework in your webpage on this. For example, using engineered seeds that yield better crops. This is very polemic, okay? But if you can get a seed that will give you a bigger crop in a smaller area, it could work with sustainable development because it prevents